What is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here, and welcome to the Nebula Music Podcast. This is a show where I talk to some of today's most inspiring and influential musicians of the music industry with the goal of understanding their mindset and understanding what makes them tick. Today, I'm very excited because I have none other than Miss Trish Chisholm, guitarist of the band The End of the Ocean, joining me for a very intimate conversation. I'm very excited for this particular one because Trish and I dove in deep and talked about a lot of the challenges that bands, just like her band, face early on in their career. Sometimes we focus on those big milestone moments, like the big headlining tours, the big things that happen that define a musician's career. But today is definitely somewhat unique because we got a chance to see what it's like and what it feels like to be working for something when it doesn't seem to be working out. And Trish definitely tells me some experiences that she went through, how she felt like when her music career wasn't necessarily when she wanted it to be. Now we fast forward to today, and The End of the Ocean is doing great. They're with an amazing label. They have a new album release. They're about to go on a headlining tour. I mean, they're doing amazing things, but they definitely know, just like I know, sometimes it isn't that glamorous, and that path to get to that point is definitely full of twists and turns that I'm glad Trish opened up to me about. Take a moment to listen to this conversation because I guarantee you it's worth it, and I'm hoping that it's going to inspire you to stay in the game, pursuing what matters to you. So let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right into the conversation. All right, what is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here, and welcome again to the Nebula Music Podcast. Today, I'm very excited because I have a very special guest, someone that I'm very excited to have on the show. I was talking to her a little bit before we started this episode, and it's interesting because I'm constantly keeping myself up to date with the music that's constantly being released. I make sure that I'm always checking Spotify with what's new and what's trending. And the interesting part is that this person's band, I've been listening to them for a while, for years, without even realizing. But before I even get into that, I just want to welcome Miss Trish Chisholm. Trish Chisholm, sorry about that, Trish, to the show. Trish, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Like I was saying, I'm excited to have you on because, well, first of all, I get excited anytime I have someone really cool on the show. And your music, in my opinion, it's one of the most melodic music I've heard in a very long time. It must take a lot of skill to do that. So, I mean, I don't even know how to even begin, to be honest, because I'm amazed. But how about this, Trish? I always like to do this at the beginning of every episode. I'd like to give the opportunity for the artist to just sort of talk about themselves and maybe explain a little bit of what it is that they do. So, Trish, maybe you can walk me through a little bit about how you got started with music. I know you're a guitarist, and then maybe we can take it from there.
Yeah. Well, I started playing guitar, probably got my first one when I was like 10 or so.
Nice.
And, like my dad always had guitars, like going like around the house, whatever. My brother was super into music, and I always did what my brother did. So, like skateboarding, whatever it was. And I really wanted to play guitar. So my parents got me one for Christmas, but I'm left-handed. So they gave me a right-handed one.
Oh, interesting.
So for like the first like couple months, I was super frustrated with it because I wanted to play left-handed. So I'd like play it upside down, and like obviously that does not work. So I just stopped playing. I stopped playing, I would say, for like a year or so because I was just so frustrated. And then I just finally said, screw it, I want to do it. So I learned right-handed.
Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of like put my dedication in it. Same with drums. Like I had drums around the house. I wanted to play left-handed, but then my brother would yell at me. So I learned right-handed, which I think to this day like kind of saved me learning right-handed. But
how crazy is that? You know what's interesting? I actually know two guitarists that play their guitar upside down because they learned that way because, the guitar is primarily a right. I mean, I would imagine that most instruments that aren't neutral are made for right-handed people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, like that's fascinating. How hard was it for you, or how long did it take for you to reteach yourself how to play right-handed? Because I imagine when you flipped it upside down, it might have been counterintuitive, but at least, you had your dominant hand making all the chords and stuff.
Right.
How did it feel like? Like, how hard was it to learn it right-handed?
I don't think it was that hard because I stopped. There was like a period of time where I didn't even like touch the guitar.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like relearned from the start. And like I started learning how to read tabs and stuff like that. So that really helped me. And I was always in band in school too. So I still had like that kind of musical background.
Yeah.
And I think that helped a lot.
That's crazy. I mean, I commend you for trying to learn it right-handed. Do you recommend, let's say there's other people out there that are left-handed and they want to try and learn guitar. I know nowadays that it's a lot more common for left-handed guitars to be made. Obviously, it's not the norm, but I think they make more. Do you feel like that helps you musically wise? And I'm just curious because obviously I'm right-handed. I'm not left-handed, but I know the struggle. But I can't ever know it firsthand, So I'm curious, like, do you feel like that benefited you? And I know you said something like that earlier, but do you feel like it sort of benefited you taking up that challenge of learning it right-handed?
I think it did, honestly. It made me like, I don't know, not more dedicated, but like more of just like, I just want to do it,
Interesting.
Just like, it forced me to like, I don't know, like learn the back of it and just, I don't know. But I kind of like thankful I did because, as you said, like finding left-handed guitars is super rare.
Yeah. I think you have to custom make them, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm curious about, though, because obviously you had the dedication to learn it right-handed, and I commend you for that. But for me, I'm not sure if I would have had the discipline to learn something the opposite way. You know what I mean? Like, what was it? Why did you pick up the guitar again? That's what I'm curious about, because you did leave it and you were probably doing other things, and then you came back to it and decided, screw it, I'm going to learn this right-handed, which, again, it's a very commendable thought. I'm curious, like, what was the driving force behind that? Were you part of a band that you wanted to get better for, or was there a specific reason, or you just one day decided, hey, guitar needs to be my thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it was that. Like, I always kind of had it in the back of my head because I grew up, all my friends are in bands. Like, my brother's friends, he was in a band. Like, I grew up around that.
Yeah.
And, like, going to shows. And, like, I always knew, like, when I was, like, 11, 12, like, I want to be in a band. And, like, this is how I'm going to do it. If I'm going to do it, I have to learn, obviously.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of in the back of my head.
Nice. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you did it. I'm glad that you figured out a way to play it, because from the music that I've listened to, you sound right-handed.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with that. To sort of give you guys a little bit of a backstory, Trish plays for a band called The End of the Ocean. And I was telling her before the show that, because I'm always working and I'm always kind of up to date to what's going on, when I heard about her band, I knew that her band was ringing a bell. I knew that your band was ringing a bell, Trish. And I realized that your music was on all these playlists that I follow that are all focus based. Whenever I work on stuff, I put on one of those deep focused playlists on Spotify that have very melodic, most of the time lacking vocals kind of music, and you guys have like 5 or 6 tracks on all those playlists, and one specifically that I love a lot that I've actually have saved on my own personal playlist, and it's fantastic that you guys make this kind of music. It's there's no vocals, it's all primarily instrumental, and I'm not even sure what you would call the style, because there's a lot of rock influences for sure, but what do you call your style, if I can ask?
We just call it post-rock.
Interesting. Oh, wait, what is it called again?
Post-rock.
Post-rock? Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so what made you guys want to play that style before? Because I can hear, whenever I listen to your music, I can hear a lot of influences for sure from many different kinds of genres. So part of me even wonders if you guys all come from different bands and just came together to form this one band, or if you guys all met and set out on this journey together to create this type of music, if that makes sense. Is that how it happened?
So, kind of. There's a kind of a long story, but I joined the band in 2012. So they were already like doing it, whatever. And my band back home in Detroit that I was in since I was like 12, I played bass for. Like, I've always played bass in bands like that growing up. And they were instrumental too. Yeah. So growing up, I was like, I don't know what the hell this shit is. Like, why doesn't it have vocals? Like, what? Like, what is this? But I always wanted to be in a band, so I was like, yeah, I'll play bass, whatever. So that like kind of took off back home. And then on the ocean, they heard us, my band back home,
What was your
and
band's called? Oh, your band's name?
Sunlight Ascending.
Got it.
So we did like a summer tour. It was right after I graduated high school. It was like, I think like a 2-week tour we did with them. And then after that tour, they needed a guitar player. The guitar player wanted to finish school or whatever. So they asked me, and I was like, sure. Like, like you
Why
guys are
not?
doing something, like you guys are touring. Like I really enjoyed like seeing them every night. Like I felt something like seeing them every night.
Yeah.
And that like really impacted me. And the fact that I have like live 3 to 4 hours away, like I still made that work because I saw something in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, because like I would play in like random bands like back home, like metal and all that, but like it just doesn't feel right to me. Like instrumental like feels right to me playing that. And so I just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I took the Greyhound back and forth all the time.
Wow.
Like I was still in college. And like, yeah, my parents were like, "You're not driving there." Like you're 18. Well, I was like, okay.
How old are you now?
I'm 20. About to be 26 in April.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what I used to do. When I live in Los Angeles, right? But Los Angeles is fairly big. Have you ever been to LA?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so LA, I know I talk a lot about LA on the show, but for those of you guys that are still not very familiar with Los Angeles, LA is pretty huge, obviously, and I think most major cities, Detroit, obviously, they're big, but LA is kind of split in a weird way where there's LA County and LA City, and LA City is pretty much everything from downtown to the beach. And then some surrounding areas, and then LA County extends even further into like ocean into Orange County. But it's huge. I mean, like 5 billion people live here. So I grew up in the southern part of Los Angeles, and then I decided to go to school in this area called the Valley, San Fernando Valley, just over the mountains where you see the Hollywood sign. It's on the other side of that, and it's not very far. It's maybe like 25 to 30 miles away. Relatively close, but Los Angeles has insane amount of traffic. And so I had to take, I had to take the metro, what we call the metro, which is the train, like almost every day to school. And I remember when I first started playing with local bands in the Valley on how, my mom wanted me home, but I would take the train out there every day and then take that train back. And it was like a 3-hour ride each way. You know what I mean? Like, and you took the Greyhound, which was what, a 4-hour ride?
Yeah, like 4.5. Yeah.
I'm curious, what did you do on the Greyhound? Were you just reading books the whole entire time?
I was just listening to music. I would just try to sit by myself, or like, like don't sit next to me.
Were there any? And this is something I'm actually curious about because I know Los Angeles has this reputation for having a lot of weird people. Were there a lot of weird people on the Greyhound? I'm curious.
There were a couple times. A lot of times I was like by myself, but the random times there were like the weirdos, kind of,
Yeah.
just like okay.
Was there at any point where you were sitting on that bus just kind of questioning yourself, like, damn, like, is this 4-hour ride worth it? Like, that's a long time to be on a bus. And for me as a drummer, I was tapping on my knees the whole entire time. I had music books. People would look at me like I was the weirdo, because I was tapping on myself. But I didn't care. I mean, 3 hours is a long time. I got bored. But I'm curious for you, like, did that ever cross your mind? That sort, not doubt, but curiosity as to why you were doing this. I mean, obviously you knew that you loved the music, but 4 hours each way is a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just knew that I didn't want, per se, like the normal life of like, because I was in like college that time, and I finished college to like, kind of make my parents happy, but I knew that wasn't for me. And I knew like getting an office job or whatever, how like I knew that wasn't for me. And I knew that the 4-hour drive or whatever was worth it if it was going to like, end up like today. Like it's totally worth it. Like all this shit we're doing now. But I think I always had that in the back of my mind. Like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, at least I tried. And that's what my dad always said to me. Like, at least you're trying. At least you didn't say no, and like, what if? He's very like, don't do what ifs, like just do it.
Yeah.
And so I always had that in the back of my mind, like, okay, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Wow. You know what? Thank you, Dad. Awesome. I mean, good
Yeah,
for
my
you.
dad's the most amazing person ever.
And I'm sure Mom is too. And I think
Oh,
that,
yeah.
yeah,
They're my best
it's
friends.
one of those things where I get this story quite a bit on the show, and I also get a lot of messages from people sort of saying the same thing, which I understand because my folks were somewhat on the similar page too, where they allowed me to study music, but you know the expectations were there,
Yeah.
where they want you to be, I don't know, a lawyer or something like that.
Right.
But it's interesting that you knew that this college life, office job, it wasn't for you. And it's something I always like exploring because I feel, and I'm a firm believer that we all sort of know, what, not what our destiny is, but what we want to do. You know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of us that don't mind being in an office or doing jobs that are related to
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of us musicians have that struggle at some point in our life where there are expectations from our family or from other places. And it is a crazy thought. When you think of the odds and the numbers of the people that actually succeed, and you have to ask yourself, is this something that I'm meant to do? You somehow knew that. And were you ever doubting that it wasn't going to work out? I know you were saying that your mindset was like, well, whatever. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. But I guess what I'm curious about is, was it ever like an overwhelming doubt where you just question yourself, like, maybe I should just focus on school and not doing the music? And we both know it worked out for you. But at the time, I imagine it was a different story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a period of time, I think we just did Europe, so that was 2015, and a couple of the members like moved back home, and we kind of took like a break. And so I finished up school, and I like moved out like with my best friend, like had a job, wasn't doing music at all. Like we weren't writing, we weren't playing shows. And like that was like the most miserable I've ever been in my entire life.
Wow. What job
Like
did you
every
get?
day. Well, I still work at the job, which is fine. I like work at my brother's restaurant.
Oh, nice.
Like I loved it there, but it was just like the fact of like doing the same thing every single day just made me like never want to leave my house. Like it was just like never ending, just like, okay, I gotta wake up, go to work. I gotta go to school this day. I gotta do this and this and this.
Yeah.
And like that, I don't do well with that. Like I like routine, but like that's very like not me.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just like a time where I'm like, well, what am I gonna do if I don't have music? Like, do I just like, because my dad has a business, like that was always like my plan B, like running that. And I was like, but am I really happy doing that? And he saw that in me, like I wouldn't be happy doing that.
Yeah.
And he just like my parents are very just like always pushing me to like do it and just and I'm very grateful for that. They always have my back. They're like, yeah, like go do it, And I forgot what exactly happened. I think a show or something came up, and so we all got back together. So we started playing again, and I was just like, okay, this is like started, getting back, and then starting like more tours, and then eventually like we got hooked up with our manager who got us with Equal.
That's
and
cool.
That's the point where I'm like, okay, like I'm good. Like like I don't have to worry. I don't have I still have to work hard, but this is the point where I'm like, okay, I got my chance back, and just like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like a really eye-opening experience because I grew up listening to Equal Vision, like those bands. I grew up with Louis from We Came as Romans, who was on Equal Vision.
Yeah.
And like I saw them like blow up on Equal, and like I've only heard good things about them, and I'm just like, wow, this is like a dream come true. Like all those like sleepless nights or like me hating myself like was worth it,
Yeah. That's crazy. You know what? I'm very happy for you because it sounds like the story of, well, I mean, it's your unique story and it's working out for you. Here's one thing that I'm curious about, and maybe I shouldn't pry too much, but the thing is, this is a story that I actually hear quite a bit too. And I think you'd be surprised. I think we all would be surprised to find out that a lot of successful bands that, we listen to today, went through similar periods that you went through. Obviously, they're the story of the band that comes out of nowhere that releases an EP and then they get a deal and then they get huge and blah, blah, blah. But I would argue that 90% of all bands have a story that's more similar to yours, where it's like a winding road, where like there's an initial success and maybe some tours, and then there's like a period where not much happens, and that's where a lot of artists tend to lose themselves, I'm speaking for myself too. I definitely have been through some of those moments in my life too. I'm not a stranger to that, but I think the idea is that those that succeed are the ones that sort of remind themselves why they do it, and that they choose their passion, right? They choose to do something that they love without sort of letting go of what it is. And obviously it's okay to do other things in the meantime. So for you, during that time, I know you said you were miserable, and it's okay. I don't mean to pry a little bit.
Oh, no, you're good.
But like, what was the impact in your life is what I'm curious about. And I know it's a broad question, but it fascinates me because as musicians, as creators, creating is essentially what we live for. It's what drives us to get up every day. And I completely understand what you were saying about that routine. It's not for me. So I relate with you. Like I hate being at an office. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think I do everything I possibly can to not be there. And so when you found out that you guys weren't going to play for a little while, did it take you some time to sort of not recoup, but to sort of gather yourself and be like, all right, let's see what's next for me? Was that your mindset, or were you severely upset for a little while? Because I would be very upset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think there was any like really thoughts in my head. It was just like pure, just like, okay. There was no like, I need to figure it out, or like, I should do this instead. There was nothing. It was just like me just being miserable for like a year or two.
Damn.
Of just like, okay, like I wouldn't even like touch my guitar.
Really?
In that period of time. Like it just made me sad, and just like I would randomly play with like friends and stuff, but I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah. And
like I played with like a band too, like bass for a band, and like it still like didn't feel right.
It's not the same,
like,
right?
Yeah, and like I always like after high school I was supposed to go to London for music school and for bass and like play for like artists and stuff. And like I almost went, and then I was like, no, this is not for me either. Like I want to be in a band, I want to create. I don't want to be like in a backup band, like just playing music. Like I like the passion behind it. I don't like just like the active playing,
Yeah.
I love the things behind it and just all that. So yeah, there was really I was just so in my head about everything, and just like there was a million other things going on too in that time. But it was just like a very like low in my life. And I think that implies me now of like, I don't want to go back to that. So like, I'm going to work my ass off to like, like have this system and like, make it happen.
Yeah. Most of the time when I hear stories very similar to yours, I always hear, there's always down moments, right? There's either band's not playing anymore, or someone lost a deal, or tour didn't work out. There's always something that happens right before a huge success happens. That tends to be the pattern, is what I've noticed. And I guess I'm curious for you, like what your opinion is. Do you feel like every successful artist, every successful creator sort of needs that moment where everything is not necessarily low, but where something didn't work out that sort of sparks or ignites this need to succeed, if that makes sense? Do you feel like, obviously it's helping you, but I'm curious, like, do you feel like that's like there's a pattern there, like that's what most successful musicians need?
I think so, because I think it makes you more like grateful and like humble when good things happen, because like we have had so many ups and downs, more downs than ups, and it's just like that one thing comes and you're like, wow, okay, cool. And it makes you just like grateful for that. You don't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that have instant success, like they take it for granted.
Yeah.
And then when it gets taken away from them, they don't know how to like react, So
it sort of it gives you thick skin, essentially.
Yeah. I think so.
I guess I'm just curious because it's kind of like a sad thing, because I've experienced some downs before too in my career. And I honestly wish I hadn't, but you and I both understand the meaning of sort of picking yourself up and trying to figure out again. I wish it wasn't that way. You know what I mean? Like, I wish
Yeah,
it could
for
just
sure.
be
Yeah.
like it worked out and you're just happy and everything is perfect. But obviously, life doesn't work
Right.
that
It
way.
doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm glad that it's working out for you guys. I'm curious specifically about the band. Like, obviously, you guys are playing now, and you're the lead guitarist. How is the dynamic in your band working together right now? So, in terms of songwriting, that's something that I'm very fascinated in because your music, as I mentioned before, I have you guys saved. Accidentally and now intently. Now it's very much intently.
Right.
It's I can listen to your music a lot, and so I'm curious, how do you guys approach the songwriting? Because I know you guys had just gone into the studio recently, last year, if I'm not mistaken. Are you guys all contributing to the songwriting? Is there one person who's sort of in charge of that? How does that work? If you don't mind walking me through.
We all like contribute in like some way. This is actually the first record I was on because we didn't write the entire time I've been in the band since 2012.
Yeah.
So when I first joined, obviously I was playing someone else's parts. Like I would make them my own or whatever, but I've never really been in the writing process. Like my other bands, yeah, but I was playing bass. It was kind of different. There was always like songs written already and whatever. So like going into this, I was super like, I think we all were like super nervous of like what's to come. Like, are we even going to be able to write together or
Yeah.
whatever? Because like I definitely was like insecure about writing and like showing people what I came up with and all this stuff. And
Really? How come?
yeah,
I'm curious.
I don't know. I've never really like sat down and written before. Like I've just, that was kind of thing I never really approached. I
Yeah.
never felt comfortable like opening myself up to that. And so there's a song called Self on the new album. That was actually one of the first songs I've ever written like in my life. Like I just sat down on an acoustic guitar one day and just like I came up with it. And like I've had it on my computer for like probably 3 or 4 years.
Really?
And that was one of the first songs I showed them. I'm like, hey, like we could do something with this. I don't know if you guys want to, whatever. It was just like the structure of it. They like added everything themselves, but it's very like that too. Like one of us will come with like a riff, and like we just go off of that. There's never like someone that brings a whole song, We
Yeah.
all just put our own into it, or we just jam at practice. Because it's kind of hard because I live so far away
Yeah.
to like meet up and write. So I would take off like 3 to 4 days off of work, come down, and that sucks too because like being creative, you can't force.
Yeah.
So there'd be some nights where we couldn't even like be in the same room because we would get so frustrated or whatever. And so it was a long process, but obviously it worked out.
Yeah. I'm not sure if is your EP already out already? The new one
The
with
full end comes out on Friday.
Got it. Okay. So I haven't heard Self yet, but I'm curious if you could sort of tell me a little bit about what is the story behind Self. So obviously I can speculate based on the title that maybe it's about you a little bit. And since I haven't heard it, I'm not sure if I can really speculate what it's about, but I'm really curious like what your mindset was when writing the song, because obviously the band liked it and they added their stuff and now it's in your album. So what is your song Self about?
Oh God.
If I could ask, that's always the case. You don't
yeah.
have to answer if you don't want to. It's just like, I'm curious. I love understanding. I mean, we put our passion into what we do. I'm a drummer and I write some music too, but it's the same with this podcast. I put a little bit of myself on this show every single time.
Right.
And it's nerve-wracking sometimes, to share your opinion, to sort of explain why you do things, to share with an audience, your backstory a little bit. It's intimidating sometimes, but I like to understand. And if that's okay with you, I'd love to know a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so we just got back. Yeah, it was around the Europe time. And I went through like a really bad breakup, and like I was still like coming to terms with like my sexuality and like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like super sad and like really depressed and like, and this song, like I was in a really bad mental place of like, should I just like end it or like what, and I was like, I just grabbed the guitar just to like distract myself
Yeah.
from like those thoughts. And the beginning of Self, that's when I came up with it. Like, there's like a tapping part, whatever. I came up with that, and then I didn't touch it. Like, it just like distracted me from every like thought I had, blah, blah, blah. And then I wrote the ending part, like, I would say like a year later, when I was like in a better place. And it's, you can tell too, like, it starts really sad and then it ends more hopeful.
Yeah.
Because you can tell where I kind of was in headspace, which I think was kind of cool. But yeah, so that song kind of like helped me out of like a really bad place in my head. And I named it, I wanted to name it Self because like it was just like a reminder to me and hopefully to other people, like, take care of yourself. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what, don't put other people in front of yourself. And that's still to this day super hard for me. I always put other people before me, even if it's like toxic or whatever. And that was just kind of a reminder of that place I was in.
Yeah.
That's like what happens when you do that. Like, don't like risk your happiness for other people to make you like not want to be alive. Like, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know, and just, yeah, and like accept yourself and like love yourself. Like, it's still an everyday process, but from where I was then to now, like, I'm completely like different and better, and I don't know, it's always growing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you said you had this song on your computer for about 3 or 4 years, and obviously you've changed and you've grown since then. Is it still sort of painful to when you hear the song being played? Do you still somewhat get the memories of that time?
Yeah, like recording that song like was super weird, and I never really told my bandmates what the song like was
Really?
either. Like, so in the studio, like, I just broke down and like told them like, this is like what was happening, like this. So like, sorry if I get like weird when I'm recording this song, like, 'cause it does bring like a lot of memories back. And like, I've showed like friends too, and I'm like, I can't even listen to this, like, it's super hard. It's just like, I don't know, it does bring back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
But then it's also like good because like I don't really think about what happened then now, you know, like, I think about like where I was, but like the things that were happening to me I don't think about.
Yeah.
Which is also like another life thing of like, some things like you will get over them, you won't even think about them, you know.
Yeah.
You think it's some big thing now, but you won't care in like a couple of years, you know.
Yeah. Excuse me. Isn't it interesting though? Like, well, first of all, I like everything that you're saying, and I like that with your band you were able to be honest. And I think, you know, I play a lot in the pop scene, so that's sort of, you know, where a lot of my career was based out of. And I love the pop scene. I always tell everybody on the show, like, I love playing pop tunes, and I think it's fun, and it's so much fun being out there. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. But I will be honest with you, I have a soft spot for songwriting. Like, I am not a good songwriter myself, so I respect very good songwriting, whether it's with lyrics or whether it's just a composition. And I love when, well, let me say this. I feel like as individuals, we can tell when someone's being honest with their music. You know what I mean? Like, anyone can grab a 4-chord song, add a beat to it, and, you know, sing about jewelry or something. You know what I mean? And not saying that's wrong. It's just, it has its own place. But me as a drummer and as a musician, when I hear a composition or a song and I can feel something, you know, like I know that there's some thought that goes into that. There's like someone who laid down their story in this song, or a specific part of their story in a song, and I'm refreshed, I guess is what I'm saying. That it reminds me why I liked your music to begin with, is because I did feel something while I was trying to focus. And I think it says something about your band and you guys as musicians, that you guys find it important to sort of express yourself. And I know you brought the song without telling them what it was about, but the fact that they were willing to accept that, I guess what I'm curious for you is, as the person who brought the song, right? You know, you brought something that meant a lot to you and that you wrote at a very, I guess, unpleasant time in your life. Did that sort of strengthen your resolve that this was definitely more meant to be? And let me like rephrase that a little bit. I guess what I'm saying is, it was intimidating for you to bring the song, but you were clearly accepted by your bandmates. Do you feel like that's something that was necessary for you in your growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think most bands, like, they consider their bandmates like their family,
Right.
friends, best friends, and like in that moment I was like, okay, like these people, like, they truly do care and like love me, and like I knew that, but like you sometimes need to be reassured.
Yeah.
And like we were all just like crying together, like it was just like a very emotional like moment. We're all like hugging and like just like we love you, and like that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And like that made me feel more comfortable, like being open with them, because I'm not like, I sound open, but like I'm not really.
Yeah.
Per se, to like people that around me. Like if I'm going through something, it takes me a lot to bring it up to you.
I'm a Scorpio, so I understand.
Yeah, like I'm an Aries, so I'm very like hard-headed, like so it like felt good to be vulnerable, and like we always say that to each other, like we can be vulnerable with each other, like especially with writing, like and like we've all been through like super personal things.
Yeah.
Like during this writing process. So like we've all have experienced something, and we've all been like open about it, which has only made us like closer, and just it makes it that much better to be in this band.
Yeah.
Like knowing, like these people have my back, like it's not like some fake friendships. Like we're just doing it to make money, it's not like that at all. Like we actually have like pure passion for this, and just we all enjoy it, and it's amazing that we all found each other to do it,
It's crazy when you really think about it that way, how everything aligned so perfectly that you guys were able to become a unit together. I'm curious then, so you guys are releasing new music then, and I've listened to a couple of the new tracks. One of them is actually a little bit different from what you guys are used to, but I'm curious specifically for live performances for you guys. Do you feel like take Self, for example, right? This is a song that you're about to release and you're going to be performing live. I'm assuming you guys are going to be performing live soon. Is it not difficult, but is it interesting, I guess, is what I'm asking. When you're performing live, understanding that a lot of these songs have emotion behind them, that there's a story behind most of these. Is it difficult, or how is it, I guess is the question, performing live? Does some of these emotions seep through while you're playing live? And obviously Self is its own category because it's not out yet. But I'm curious, maybe predicting the future a little bit. Do you feel like when you're performing this song in the future, do you feel like some of those emotions might seep through with some of the memories and stuff like that?
Well, for Self, we're probably never going to play live. It's more like a acoustic, like not filler song, but just like a transitional song.
Right.
But like emotionally, yes, a lot of the songs, even the old songs, like resonate something in me. And honestly, it depends what kind of mood you're in that day when you play. Especially with instrumental music, like you can play, and like we all like get into it too. So it's like if I'm in the mood, you will know, like because we don't have like a singer to like distract,
Right.
Like we're all there up front, like there's no distraction. And like some shows at the end of the show, I will be either like I've been super pissed, I've been crying, I've been super happy. Like it depends, Every show is different for me, and I think everyone too. It just depends what you're going through in that moment. So like just how you experience it too. It's just like, and we get that from the audience too.
Yeah, that's what.
Like I felt this, but then the next person's like, I felt this. It's like completely different from each other. And that's what I love about it.
How crazy! I was honestly just about to ask that because I imagine that you guys playing the music, there's a certain story there, right? But the audience for sure is giving you a specific kind of energy, and I'm curious, like how different are the responses that you guys get every night? Obviously I think everyone, like you said, it depends on your mood. So instrumental music can speak to you very differently on very specific days. On average, like what would you say is the response from the audience when you guys perform a lot of these songs?
I think it's a hit or miss. It's like people are usually like they feel like hope from it or whatever, or they just feel like sadness. Like it's like
it's either hopefulness or sadness.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's just like it depends what they're going through, I think, and how they relate to it. And that's what we always say, like, we don't have a vocalist or lyrics to tell you what to think or feel.
Yeah.
Like, it's your own experience, it's your personal thing. We're not telling you to do anything. And that's what I love about it. It's like, it's your own experience.
Yeah. I love, and isn't that crazy how, you would imagine that having, okay, I think having lyrics definitely and vocals definitely add, it's a different thing, right? And you can definitely get a lot of emotion from that. You can hear someone's story and all that. But isn't it crazy how just with just the music itself, you can get a story or you can get your emotions to trigger a little bit? It's almost like hearing this. What I think about it, it's almost like hearing a movie score. Like you don't have to have words. When a movie score is sad or when it's exciting or when there's a chase scene happening. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that, I can see why that drives you. I can see why that drives your band, because I would be very excited. It's almost like I don't know. It's almost like a mystery box every time. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what the audience is going to feel. Is that intimidating sometimes though for you guys as a band? Like, do you feel like going out there with your instrumental music, because you're not, you don't have words, or your music's not like what we would consider pop or anything on my side of stuff. Does that ever get intimidating? Like, oh shoot, I'm not sure if the band's going to dig our instrumental music today. You know what I mean? Like, is that ever a thing?
Oh yeah. But we were actually just talking about this. It's like the weirdest shows we play that we shouldn't be able to play, we do the best.
Really?
Like the most random, like we played with Norma Jean, like we played with like Cold Orange, like Touche Amore, like we played with weird, like bands that we shouldn't be playing with, per se, because like a lot of instrumental bands, they play with each other.
Right.
And like, it's just like, they all just like go into one. No one, like, you can stand out, but it's super hard to stand out. But when we play these bills, we automatically stand out. And a lot of the audience don't really know what post-rock is or whatever. But it, like, they can, I don't know, they just get into it, and it's really weird. It's just, like, we get so many people, like, I don't even know what that was, but I loved it, Like,
that's cool. That's cool.
We try to put on a show, like, we don't just, like, stand around, like, we get into it, and, like, we try to get that energy, since we don't have a lead person, we try to get that energy with the crowd, and, like, we're actually feeling it, we're not, like, just doing it to do it, but yeah, it's very interesting.
It is very interesting. I actually had a very similar conversation with Donovan Malero from Hail the Sun.
Okay,
yeah. So he was telling me a little bit about how he books other tours for other bands and stuff, and he told me something very similar to what you were saying. How essentially sometimes what is interesting for him is sort of meshing together a bill that, like you were saying, when you look at it, it shouldn't make any sense. You have this like really hard band and then like a softer, maybe like a smaller band kind of thing. And you look at it and it's like, oh, why are they playing together? That's weird. But then when you go to the show, it all of a sudden creates a very interesting blend of music, because you're right.
Yeah.
I'd imagine having 3 instrumental bands back to back to back. I mean, if you're a fan of the genre, you probably would love it.
Yeah, for sure.
But for like a normal goer, it might be, I don't want to say overkill, but it would be like, it's a lot of music for one day.
It's like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But it is interesting that you get paired up in these bills that shouldn't make any sense, but somehow they end up being your best shows. I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, what about the other shows then, the ones that should make sense? What do you feel about those? Do you feel like those are kind of hit or miss?
A little bit. We usually get a pretty good response. I'm sure there's obviously people that don't like us, but usually those people don't say anything to your face. But you can tell from the crowd, like we've had awful shows, but usually we do get a good like energy from the crowd, and especially like local shows we always do. Like, I don't know, it just depends, honestly.
Yeah.
It depends if we suck that night or what.
Well, I imagine you guys probably do a really good job every single night. And I love the fact that you guys get a chance to get an honest reaction from the audience. I think that's rare in my scene. You know what I mean? Like, I think my scene is more about the hype and getting everybody excited and having a good time. That's at least the goal,
Yeah.
And to be in a group that can get different emotions from the audience, I think that's fantastic. I honestly, I can see why you guys are driven to be better, because that honestly is exciting to be able to have the ability to make a large group of people feel something. I mean, that's I mean, that's what the music's about. You know what I mean? But I guess as we sort of start wrapping things up, Trish, one of the things I'm curious about for you that you said a little bit earlier, and you know, feel free to tell me that you don't want to talk about it or anything, but like I'm curious for you. You said that you tend to put people in front of you a lot, and I want to ask about this because I actually have a couple friends, all really great musicians, some famous, some not, but who sort of do the same thing. You know what I mean? And part of me wonders, I'm starting to just, you know, theorize in my head, if it has something to do with the fact that we are musicians. You know what I mean? Obviously, everyone's different. But a lot of these people that I'm talking about, they're very giving people, and their music is a lot about giving, and it's a lot about, you know, trying to share their passion with the world, just like you are. And I guess what I'm curious for you is, do you feel like the reason why you used to be this way, I'm not sure if you're still this way now, but do you feel like those two go hand in hand? Like the reason why you might find it easier to put people in front of you is because you are this dedicated, passionate musician? Does that sound crazy to you? I'm just curious. Like, I'm honestly curious.
No, I think that's definitely part of it.
It's just, it's interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's fascinating. And do you feel like have you changed from that, or is that an integral part of who you are?
A little bit. It's easier for me now to like take myself out of the situation. But I still like go out of my way, which is fine, to go out of my way for people and
right.
do that. But then I don't really like do stuff for me at that point. Like, I'm still trying to figure that out of like doing stuff for me. If I have to do something for someone else, I would definitely always pick helping my friend out, or like, you know, doing that even if I have something else to do. Like, I will cancel everything and just go. And I'm kind of like trying to like take a step back from that, of like do me first, you know, just like if I got shit to do, I gotta do it, and not like put my life on hold for other people. And that's what I'm at least trying to do like this year, of just like make sure that's a point of doing that, and like make sure I'm happy first, because that's the thing too, like I've noticed, especially with musicians, they put their happiness in other people, because you're always giving, and that's what you're used to, is like seeing other people happy, and that's how in turn like made me happy. But when those people go away and you're by yourself, you're not happy. So I'm like trying to work that out this year, and just like focus on me.
Did that ever feel like a very selfish decision? I'm curious.
Yeah, it always does. It does every time.
Yeah.
But then I look at it, I'm like, other people do it. Why can't I do it? You know? It's like people do it to me all the time, but I still go out my way for them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not healthy at all.
No, it's not. I mean, I would argue that being extreme on both sides of the spectrum, you know, being way too selfish or way too giving, I mean, too much of a good thing, you know, that's what they always say is not good. But it is interesting that you bring up this point, which I agree with. I've seen it firsthand. And luckily I've been fortunate enough to work with great people, but I see it around me all the time too. You're absolutely right that I think as creators, as musicians, you know, just musicians, we do work in an industry that a lot of the people do take a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I think the musicians, for the most part, we tend to give quite a bit. We give ourselves every day. That's, when you really think about it, that's kind of what making music is. And then you get this other side that a majority of them are really good people, but there's definitely a bunch that all they want to do is take. You know, it's an industry, it's a business. Do you feel like as a band, and maybe as a musician yourself, that you're learning sort of how to balance being a giver, but also how to sort of stand your ground and sort of picking and choosing what to do and what not to do? Because it can be very easy to give all of you away. And then, like you were saying, when they're done with you, a lot of the times they tend to just discard you, you know. But I tend to find that those musicians and bands that learn how to, how to balance, how to like work with the label, how to work with the industry, but also kind of have a stand their ground on certain things, they tend to last the longest. And I'm curious, like for you guys, do you feel like you're sort of learning that? Do you guys already do that? Or is that something that you're still trying to figure out? Or if and maybe you disagree with me, maybe you don't feel like that's the way it is at all.
I think we're still trying to figure it out. Because it's like, especially like, we're still like, I would say like a new band. Like, yes, we've been around, but this is like, we see it as like a restart.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, but we're still in the mindset of like, okay, we can't say yes to every single thing. Like, we have to like pick and choose like what makes the most sense for us. Like, especially like show wise and stuff. Like, when you're first starting, yes, like play a million local shows. But once you have like your following, don't play every weekend, We had kind of like learned that of like, we can say no. We can say no to tours that don't make sense. We can say no, and it's nice working with awesome people. Like, Equal Visions, like, they're the nicest people. Like, they're very understanding.
I've heard a lot of good things about
yeah,
them.
If we don't want to do something, they're like, okay, let's do something else. They're not like, no, you have to do this,
Yeah.
And they're just amazing people, and like I would never, I'm just so thankful for that because it could have been the opposite.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just like learning how to say no and like being smart. And at the end of the day, like it sucks, but a band's like a business, so you have to think what's best for that.
Exactly.
And like, doing all that, but it's a learning process.
But you guys are willing to learn it, and you guys seem to be doing an amazing job. I mean, it's like you were saying, it's a business. It's a compromise too. It's a give and take kind of thing. And I'm glad that you're learning how to stand your ground because it's something that takes a while to learn how to do. So honestly, to kind of start wrapping things up a little bit here in the end. So you guys have a new album coming out on Friday. So what's the plan for this album? Maybe you can walk me through a little bit about maybe what it was like to make this album. Like, was it more emotional than you realized? And then are you guys going to start touring immediately kind of thing?
Yeah, we have a headlining tour. It starts on the 18th. I think we're doing 10 shows, 9 shows, something like that. With our friends, Tides of Man. And yeah, we're just like going to Canada, New York and stuff. After that, probably going to start the writing process a little bit. Just get a head start. Hopefully touring, probably doing Europe. And like we don't really have like concrete plans right now, but still figuring it out.
Keeping it open-ended.
Yeah. And like I'm gonna like go on tour with like bands and stuff and do merch and be traveling and yeah, it's just I don't know. We'll figure it out.
I love it. No, I love that you're leaving it open-ended to try and figure things out. Trish, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know that you got a lot of things going on your plate and you guys are prepping for this album release, but like I said, I love your music. I genuinely listen to it quite a bit because it's saved on all my playlists and it's awesome. And I love that. Even I feel things sometimes when I use it to work on my stuff. There are times where I just kind of meditate a bit and your music for sure comes out in the background and I love it. It helps me quite a bit. And so I'm hoping that for a lot of, I'm sure, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of the people that listen to this show, they probably have listened to your music before too. And it's going to be one of those things where like, oh yeah, that's right. I have listened to the music before. And you guys are going to love it by the time you guys realize that you guys have been. But anyways, Trish, thank you so much. Thank you for taking time out of your day.
Having me.
Of course. Cool. So to sort of like end things, one of the things I like to do at the end is we've obviously said everything we could have said and it's amazing. And I love learning from your experience. And if someone out there was sort of in your shoes, maybe they're trying to be part of a band, maybe they're traveling 4 hours to practice with a band. They don't know what they're doing. Or maybe they feel like they give way too much, like, I don't know. What would be something that you can, advise some of the young musicians that are trying to find their way, something that they could be doing today to sort of improve their chances or improve their path? And it could be something broad, but I'm just curious, like, what would you suggest something that helped you along the way that you could suggest for somebody that wants to do what you're doing?
I guess it's cliche, but just like keep going. Like,
hell yeah.
You're gonna have real lows, but you're gonna learn from those, and it can only get better from there. is what I've learned. Yes, you can have like steps back, but it can only go up from there. And if you know that you're supposed to do it, then do it. Like, don't settle because you don't think you can do it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, believe in yourself. You can make it happen. Like, that's when it changed for me, was when I started believing in myself. That's when it just, like, switched, you know?
Yeah. I love it. No, you know what? Cliche things tend to be true. I say that a lot on the show.
Yeah, they really do.
I mean, they're cliche for a reason. And
Right.
they've worked for a lot of people. And those are some wise words, Trish. Honestly, I think the idea, I like what you said specifically about if you know you're meant to do something, then just do it. The truth is, like I've said before, I am a firm believer that we all know what's best for us. You know, I think we clutter it with excuses and with experiences, and not to blame anyone. And obviously life is hard, you know, so things happen. Right. I totally get that. But I think at the end of the day, when you're able to clear your mind, you know exactly what you want to be and what you want to do. So just do it. You know, don't try, or don't try. Don't not try. Just go after it. See what happens.
And it can be a long process. Like, it's taken me over 10 years to get here. You know, like, it's not an overnight thing either.
Yeah. I mean, I think the classic example is also Morgan Freeman. I don't think he was in his first movie till he was like 55. So, you know, there you go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's true, but I think it's something like that. But anyway, honestly, like you were saying, to reiterate that, we all know what we're supposed to do. And if me and Trish can encourage one of you guys out there to pick up a guitar or take a Greyhound to play with a band or something, then I think we did our job, Trish.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Trish. I know that I definitely did. And listen, I say this at the end of every single conversation I have. I'm always learning, and that's something that I try to pass on to a lot of my fans and a lot of the people that have listened to the show for a very long time. You always have to be willing to learn. And look, the truth is, the path to success is never a straight one. I can't even count how many times I've said that on this show. I think a lot of you longtime listeners understand, based out of all the stories that we've listened to on this show, we've come to understand that no one path is the same. Some take longer, some are shorter, some turn so many times, metaphorically speaking, obviously. Sometimes they're pretty quickly, straightforward, but the idea is that no one path is the same. And Trish's career is a great example of how things can always change. Even if things don't always look great, if you choose to do what matters to you, if you choose to pursue your passion and you choose to believe in that gift that you've been given or that you feel like you have, then you're going to achieve what you want. You're going to be happy and you're going to achieve success. And that's something that I firmly believe. And definitely check out the End of the Ocean's music. I mean, they have a new album called Air. At this point, I believe the album's already out. When we recorded the interview, it wasn't out at the moment. But I love the music. I already started listening to it. I'm in love with it. And like I said during the interview, I guarantee you've listened to their music before, and rightfully so. Honestly, these guys make amazing music, and I can't wait to watch them live. So definitely check out The End of the Ocean, their new album, and maybe even watch them play a show somewhere near you. So that's it for today's episode, guys. Definitely continue tuning in because I do this every week, or as much as I possibly can. I bring on the best guests that I can find, people that are doing really cool things in the industry, and try to understand their mindset. Really dive in deep, try to understand what makes them tick, so that in turn, I can inspire you to continue doing your thing, because as I always say, I firmly believe that if you're working on your passion and you're doing what you love, you will definitely find success.